Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on this 2021 Exceed Online Conference. This is another segment in our Women in STEM forum. And I'm so excited that Sherri Babcock can be here with us on this time. And Sherri, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. It's
Go
my
ahead.
pleasure.
Thank you. And also, if ever anyone needs to ask some questions about what you do, is that okay that we get some of those messages and we forward them to you? Is that all right with you, Sherri?
That'd be great.
Okay. Thank you, Sherri. Go ahead and take it away.
Hi, everyone. As Charity said, my name is Sherri Babcock. I am the president of Synergent and the founder. Synergent is a healthcare logistics and support service operations consultant. We work with large hospitals all over the country, all the way from Washington State to Virginia. So we usually get engaged by architects and engineers that are wanting us to join their teams on projects that have major elements related to the movement of materials. So I'm just going to share a quick video that kind of talks about some of the technologies that we use to move materials. So that is some of the technologies that we use to move materials in a hospital. I'm sure most people recognize the pneumatic tube system with a canister, like you see at the bank. That uses air pressure to move that canister through the tubes and into different parts of the hospital. That's primarily used to move lab samples to the lab and medications from the pharmacy out to the patients. Um, you also saw another large tube where people were putting bags into it. That's a pneumatic soiled removal system where you have a tube that is generally 20 inches in diameter, and it will suck the trash or the soiled linen to the soil duct at about 50 to 60 miles per hour, which is very helpful in a large complex, and it reduces the amount of carts moving through the hallways. Um, and then you saw some robots. Um, there are different types of robots that are used in hospitals. Some are a robot and a cart kind of all one piece, and some of them have exchange carts that they can drop the cart and then the robot's free to go grab another cart and take it somewhere else. So we get involved with all of those, and then we also get involved with all of the support service departments, food service, environmental services, supply chain, pharmacy, lab, and so forth, as they do the work that they need to do to support all of the patients that need to be cared for. So that's what Synergent does, and we've had a good time doing it. Just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I'm a product of Adventist education from first grade through college. I started out being homeschooled by my mom because we were missionaries in Pakistan, and eventually came back to the United States when I was in eighth grade. But where my interest in STEM really started taking off, well, let's back up just a moment. Um, when I was being homeschooled, my parents bought a set of World Book encyclopedias. And back then, those encyclopedias had little special sections as you were reading through, like if it was talking about gravity, for instance, and the definition and examples of gravity, they would have a little sidebar experiment that you could do that would teach you about gravity. And so for many years while I was homeschooled, I would pour through those books and find experiments and run them. And so that kind of started my interest in science. And then when I came to the United States, my ninth grade year is where I really took off. I had a math teacher named Carrie Corbin at Spencerville Adventist Academy. And he was not only good at math, but also was curious about computers, which were just becoming a thing. And so he managed to get hold of one of the very early IBM PCs and started teaching an after-school class in BASIC. And so I took advantage of that and got interested in computers, as well as really taking off in my math skills under his instruction. And then the other person that just really interested me in science was Diane Mueller, who was our science teacher. And in biology, she had us dissect so many different creatures that it just really fascinated my interest in the structure of how God has created all the different living beings that are made. And we dissected everything from earthworms to pregnant cats and learned a lot about how living beings are put together. She also ran an experiment in our own personal health where she challenged us to take a sugar-free challenge for 30 days, with some small exceptions for low sugar cereal in the morning and a low sugar ketchup, knowing that she couldn't get kids to totally go off those things. But that also, doing a sugar-free diet for 30 days just helped us realize what effect sugar has on our bodies, and interested me in general health principles. So that was my, freshman year of academy. And then the person that kind of capped off my interest in mathematics was Harley Larkin. By that time, I was at Pioneer Valley Academy up in Massachusetts. And he taught a wonderful senior pre-calculus class, which actually launched us so far that we also went through the first semester of college calculus in terms of the material that we covered, and just really developed a love for mathematics. So when I entered college at Andrews University, I started out as a pre-med major. And although I loved my classes in biology and chemistry and had some very good teachers there, I decided that wasn't the right course of action for me myself. And so then I decided, my parents were both Adventist educators, and I was like, well, I'll just be a math teacher. So I took secondary math education as my major, and I did that for a year. And then I actually went to Micronesia and taught in Pohnpei mathematics to the high school level for 1 year. And I thoroughly enjoyed that year. But I decided that education wasn't my calling either, not for the long term anyway. And so at that point, one of my fellow student missionaries who had graduated from Pioneer Valley Academy with me said, I remember there was some interest inventory testing that we did our senior year, and you tested very high in engineering. And I was like, I don't even know what an engineer does. And he said, well, they take science and math and they apply it to real world problems and help solve those problems. And I was like, well, that sounds like fun. So I went back to Andrews as a pre-engineering student, and I took everything that they had to get me ready for entering the last 2 years of engineering at Walla Walla College at the time. It later became university. And so it was like fish to water. I had found my calling. I just loved it. And then I graduated from Walla Walla with a degree in mechanical engineering. and went to work for Worthington Foods, which many of you may be familiar with, as a facility engineer, helping them make buildings to support the manufacture of their food products. Um, and after 13 years of doing that, I decided to launch out on my own and start a consulting business, utilizing all the skills that I had gotten. And very quickly, I landed in the healthcare sector, installing a robotic cart transport system. And from there, it's grown into a business that's supporting myself and 4 other individuals on a pretty full-time basis. So that's a little bit about me. Charity, did you have anything else you wanted me to cover?
No, that sounds really exciting. I liked hearing your story because I too went to YAP, Micronesia,
Mm-hmm.
and I forgot that your daughter told me that you did go there. I wanted to know though, it's interesting that you mentioned encyclopedias because somehow I think I have to explain what encyclopedias are to
Yeah, they're not even around anymore, are they? I'm really dating myself here.
two other guests that said that. And I was like, I wonder if I should mention about encyclopedias. But I remember that. I remember getting the new set and how it was smelled so fresh and everybody was so excited to see the pictures and the new version of whatever we got at the library. Yeah, I remember that. So I'm glad you you mentioned that because that inspired a lot of us.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
today you've got all the YouTube videos of various
Yeah,
things that can be done. So
that's
the
so
way that I
true.
give back to Adventist education today is that I am a Lego robotics coach.
Yay.
And I volunteer at our local church school, Worthington Adventist Academy. I've been a robotics coach for 8 years. We did take a break last year because of the pandemic, but we're planning to start back up this coming year. And
Nice.
it has been very rewarding. Every year we've had between um, 10 and 18 kids in 1 or 2 teams. And we've gone to the national championships over the years, I guess about 4 times in 10 years. And it's just been a great learning experience for those kids. And I enjoy watching the ones that attend our church as they're choosing their own careers. Many of them are going into science and medicine and engineering, and that's really encouraging.
Maybe I'm glad you mentioned that too, because maybe you could give us some tips later. Maybe we'll have a follow-up session to talk about Lego robotics for schools that can't afford it, but end up getting a set from another school.
Hmm.
Because then that training is different because it's past season type of a theme, and it's hard for them to get the support. So it's like I always try to figure out how to send them where they need to go for that kind of support.
Right. I know the Ohio conference has some money that was designated somehow through some grant for STEM education. And so any schools in Ohio that want to start a
Okay.
team can contact, their conference education director, and he will help them
Okay.
get the equipment that they need and get registered. But and your local conference may also have
That's true.
something like that. There are a lot of grants out there for STEM education,
Mhm.
and even the Lego Robotics League has some grant application opportunities that you can go for as well. But they change the Lego robotics equipment like every 5 years or
Yeah,
so.
they do.
But the good thing is that they usually will allow the older equipment to compete. It's just that the older equipment
Oh,
is
okay.
sometimes not as competitive in
Yeah.
a competition, but
Yeah.
you can still learn a lot. And even with the older robots, we've gone to nationals. When other people had
Wow.
newer robots and we had older robots, we still went to nationals. So it really depends on the team and what you do with the equipment that you're given. Um,
Hmm. Mhm.
And a lot of the the immediate last generation equipment
Yeah.
is available for cheap,
Yeah.
either on the internet, or sometimes you
Sure.
can get it donated from another team that's upgrading
Mhm.
to the newer equipment. A lot of the Lego robotics teams help and coach each other. So if you plug into teams in your area, maybe not even with the Adventist school system, but with your local area, you may find some hand-me-down opportunities there
Well,
as
I'm glad you
well.
mentioned that too. We'll have to I'll send an email to Mel Wade and see if he has some kind of a co-op, you know, community board or something where other schools, especially schools in Micronesia, because I know that some of them are interested, so we can get them on that forum as well
Well,
when
the
we go
last
to
two
one.
times we went to nationals, there was a team there from Saipan.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, so we enjoyed seeing them. They're very good.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, and the last thing I was going to ask you is you mentioned a little about how you ended up where you what you're doing and seeing the need for that. There was a question that I wanted to ask on, did you see that there was a need because no one was providing for that need as far as the robotic type of materials or that type of avenue?
Yeah,
Curious.
so when I first got involved with robots in healthcare back in 2000, um, robots had been in the manufacturing industry for some time,
Sure.
but healthcare was still not thinking of their support service departments as production centers, and they weren't thinking of their material management departments as delivery systems. And so there was this opportunity at that point in time to, but there was this interest in healthcare for excellence. And there were several new programs in excellence that were being developed that was encouraging healthcare to improve their efficiencies, lower their overhead costs, and so forth. And so Synergent just fell into a sweet spot where they were ready to learn this stuff that I was bringing
Oh,
out of manufacturing and into healthcare.
oh, okay. Yeah, because that sounds like there probably weren't a lot of companies doing that at the
Right.
time.
No, there
Yeah.
weren't. And
Yeah. How about
I,
now?
there still aren't. This is a very small niche.
Oh, wow.
Um, but I mean, at the time that I first got involved, there were probably less than, well, there were 3 to 5 in the entire United States
Hmm.
consulting
Okay.
companies that was doing what I was doing.
Hmm.
Now there's 5 to 10, but there's not very
Wow.
many. Yeah.
Okay.
And the problem is that it's very much linked to healthcare new project builds, and not every hospital is building a large, multi-million-dollar building on a regular basis. It's so sometimes business is really good if there are hospitals that are upgrading their infrastructure, and then there are other times when things are a little lean,
Yeah.
but God has always provided. I can
Oh,
I can witness to that.
oh, amen. I'll have to send you the link to the new hospital here at Loma Linda Medical Center, and they're, I think they're almost 100% done, and I'll have to show you some of the virtual tours that they have on all the 21st century type of um, infrastructure that they did for to make the building earthquake approved per se.
Uh-huh.
So it's quite a phenomenal feat for a for a large building to fit that need.
Yes, in California, that's always a challenge.
Mhm.
There's a lot of engineers involved with that.
For sure. Well, thank you
Yeah.
so much, Sherri. I really appreciate your time here at Exceed. And what's one advice you would give teachers?
Um, I would just encourage you to take a chance. I know there are a lot of teachers that I talk to who feel like, well, I'm really good at language arts, but um, math I feel a little rough at, and science just intimidates me. And
Mhm.
Um, the way I look at it is that math is just a tool to accomplish science and business and other
Mm-hmm.
things that people will do later in life, and that science is actually advanced play. And so if you can throw yourself into it in a different mode about I'm just playing with how the world works and experimenting to see how it works, and just try to take more of a creative, playful attitude toward it, and don't let all the scientific jargon intimidate you, because sometimes we put so much jargon on top of things that you know we get focused on the gravity equation instead of actually watching how a leaf falls versus an apple, you know and talking about the aerodynamics of that, or
Yeah,
there are some very basic things that people
that's true.
can do in their classrooms that bring nature into the classroom
Mm-hmm.
and just make it advanced play.
Oh, I love that. Advanced play. That's awesome. Thank you so much again, Sherri, and thank you everyone for joining our Women in STEM Forum workshop. Bye.